Recording. Perfect. All right. Well, awesome. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for showing up for our annual Give Local platform walkthrough. Also, thank you for registering for Give Local, especially this early, which is always nice. Um, my name is Melissa. I'm the programs coordinator here at the Community Foundation of South Puget Sound. My pronouns are they, them. And we're just going to kind of do like a quick, I wouldn't say quick, but it's like an hour. We're just going to kind of guide you through how to use the platform itself. We're just going to kind of walk through the different stages of it and hopefully answer any questions that you might have in regards to how to utilize the platform, how to just get the basics done, whichever you may need. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and show you this lovely PowerPoint that I have, which we won't spend too much time in here. And you will get this PowerPoint at the end after the session is done. So that way you can revert back because it has some screenshots and some extra, kind of tips and information. So you can revert, you can refer back to it. This recording will also be posted as well on the spsgives.org website under the nonprofit toolkit. So before we go, so let's go ahead and do that. All right. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. We can see a PowerPoint going. So lovely. Just Give Local. And again, as a reminder, the session is being recorded for training purposes. So that way, folks who couldn't make it today or folks who maybe register for Give Local a little bit later can still come back and view this. You also can come back and view it if you're like, I could have sworn Melissa said something about this and I can't remember now. So this is a good tool for that. We're going to go ahead and just ask that everyone stays muted until we stop to ask for questions. There'll be numerous spots. You can also always put stuff in the chat and we'll check the chat at those stopping points as well. So before we get too far into it, so it's not just like all super boring, I just want to go ahead and just let everyone know a little bit about me. So again, my name is Melissa Rosscup. I use they, them pronouns. You'll also see at the top in parentheses, there's an MX. And that is pronounced mix, like you're mixing a bowl of cookie dough. And just a little bit of history about like me in my like professional life is that I used to work. My first job was I worked at Fred Meyer's here in Tumwater. I worked there for about 8 years, first as a like cart pusher and then as a cashier for several more years. I quit at the end of 2014 to go back to school, where I first went to SPSDC and got my associates in business, and then I proceeded to transfer over to St. Martin's. And the picture with once a saint, always a saint shirt on, which I still have, holding up the little funny award that I got. I think that's the one that I got for psychology. Because I majored in psychology as well as business administration with a focus on marketing. I also minored in gender and identity studies. So I kept busy. But through that, through my time at St. Martin's, I also had the pleasure of getting to meet with Mindy and working with her on Give Local, particularly with the time, like building timelines and kind of like schedule that folks can use to help prepare themselves for Give Local, which is still located in our Give Local toolkit if you ever want to use it. And from there is where Mindy like invited me to apply for a part-time job they had here. And then that turned into a full-time job after I graduated from St. Martin's, and I'm still here about 3 years later. So it's been a very exciting journey. On a non-work related and professional level, I am a huge nerd and I love board games and video games and like fantasy novels. And so I have a picture with David Tennant and a couple of my friends at Emerald City Comic-Con. I do believe this one was back in 2018. I could be wrong and it was 2019, but around that time. And I miss going to Comic-Con because conventions are really fun where you get to have a whole bunch of people who are in very similar mindsets as you. This other picture, I Love Sausage to You, was taken in Berlin back in 2019 when I went with some St. Martin's friends for a short 2-week study abroad tour over in Berlin and Vienna. And it was a lot of fun. I really love getting to travel, getting to see what else there is to offer. That trip was actually my first time out of the country. I've been around the US a fair bit, but that was, getting to go somewhere else, like entirely new, very, very different, like culture was astounding. And I'm actually going to be doing it again soon, which is why we're doing this session so early. And we're only doing the one session because I'm going to be gone out of the country. I'm going back to Europe for a few weeks. So, but besides that, also, and then the last picture is back when, again, when I worked at Fred Meyer's. They started working at Seattle's capital city pride, and we got to have like a float in the parade. And so I participated in that for a few years, as I do identify within the LGBTQ community. I'm very open about it, and I love getting to be with people who, again, are out, and or even with people who aren't out, and just getting to be themselves and getting to explore all of that. And I love getting to talk to people in regards to that as well. But enough about me. We're going to go ahead and just do a quick overview of our agenda today. So we're just going to talk a little bit about some terminology because the platform does have some interesting verbiage, but that we are on our end unable to change because it's just for everyone. And we just kind of work with it. We're going to also go with what one of the terminology things is your story, which is also known as your like campaign page. So we're going to talk about your story setup, all the different breakdowns of that. We're going to talk about your team, which is everyone who has access to edit your story. We're going to talk about transactions and like all that donor information. And we're just going to kind of go through some of the optional features that are here that you can use to help kind of up your game, to better promote your story with the tools that this platform provides. You can also always feel free to kind of utilize any of those features like outside of this platform as well if you already have some stuff established, such as social media accounts and just directing people over to your social media account. So the quick terminology head cap is, the first one is that what Give Local campaign is called within this platform is called an initiative. So when I ask you, or if you happen to reach out to the platform help desk, if they ask you, what initiative are you part of? You're going to be referring to Give Local 2022. Your story is your organization's campaign. So that includes all of the different features. That is just the broad overview of what your campaign is. The story name in this case is the name of your organization. There's going to be space later on that you will be able to kind of put like what you're fundraising for. And I do believe that's the story title. So it's a weird nuance. But we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Storyteller is essentially anybody who has access to make changes within your within your story. And the team is just a group of storytellers. A specific storyteller that has payment manager status is someone who will have access to view transactions. So you'll be able to view the donor list. You'll be able to print out a like Excel spreadsheet of it, all that kind of stuff. If somebody doesn't have payment manager status, then they will not be able to view that information. But the main person who, like essentially the owner, the first person who set up your account, will have access to be able to turn that on for anyone else that you invite into as being a storyteller. And I will also be able to, if you ever have problems with it, I can do it at my end as well. So I'm going to stop the PowerPoint and I'm going to switch over into the live platform itself. Oh no. And go back in here. And share screen again. All right, perfect. So now this is once you have signed into the platform, which is going to be my.communityfunded.com. You can also access this by going to, let's just start a new tab, SPS Gives. When you are on the live Give Local site, which is spsgives.org, there is a spot on the top in the header that says nonprofit login, which will take you to that my.communityfunded.com. So you can access it either way by either remembering it, bookmarking it, or just going to SPS Gives. Either way, however it suits you best. But when you do log in, this is going to be the first thing you see is your dashboard, which is not nearly as interesting as it is once we actually start Give Local, because this is to keep you updated on how many, like where the donations are coming from, when they came in, that kind of stuff. So it's pretty blank at the beginning. But the first place to start is always the setup. And your setup is where the bulk of your editing is going to be happening. And this is where you're going to spend the most of your time, especially prior to the start of Give Local. So thinking of that, we're just going to kind of go through it. And the first part is here, there's multiple tabs, which are, we'll kind of go through each one, and they have multiple kind of sections within them. But starting with just like the details, this is going to be where you're like putting your story name. So this is the name of your organization, is where that story name comes into play. You will be able to put in a little image, and then down here you can type in a little summary, like a snapshot of your organization. We'll go in here, and this little square is showing you essentially everything that you're like typing in here in these spaces and like images you upload. And this rectangle is what goes on the main SPS Gives website once we go live. Once we go live, there will be a space that just says nonprofits, and then it will have a listing of all of you who are participating. And that's where people can, find your work, maybe donate, maybe share it, all that kind of stuff, whatever they can do to help support you. And an important thing to note is every time you make a change on a page, there's a little button up here in the top right that says Save Changes. If it is like this orangish red color, it means you've made changes that need to be saved. If you try to kind of veer away from the page you just edited without hitting Save Changes, a bonus, the platform will say, "Are you sure?" So they give you a little bit of wiggle room to make sure that we don't forget to save. Because then you can just cancel, hit Save Changes, and once it goes back to being white, then that means there's no new changes that need to be saved, and nothing's going to come up when you switch to a new location. And the next part is going to be your impact. And when it loads, so your impact this is just going to be when somebody has checked out and they've made their purchase, or sorry, when they've made their donation, they'll be on the screen a little checkout summary that shows them who they donated to, a reminder that, an email from the Community Foundation is going to be coming with their receipt information, all their tax information that they may need. But this is where you can put in a little thank you snippet that is kind of a quick, they see it right away. It doesn't take up email space for them. And it's just a nice little thank you. You can also obviously feel free to definitely send people, and we encourage it to send people more personalized thank you letters, emails after Give Local has concluded, or during it if you have the time. this is just always a good one. It's always just nice to have that little bit of a, you know, reminder of why you're doing, why you were giving the gift to this specific organization. This is also where you will go ahead and set up your goals. So you can have goals that are dollar values. You can have goals that are donor participation. And you can also just choose not to have a goal that you're just like, we're just here to have a good time. Like, why not? And so you always want to keep it at standard because it gets complicated when we do calculated. So kind of ignore the goal type one. Calculated gets messy, but you can put in a dollar value. You can put it in, literally any amount. So if you think, $1,000 seems reasonable, or maybe it's $10,000. It is important to note that it's always good to set a goal that is both ideal for your organization in what your needs, like your current needs are that you're fundraising for, but also realistic for how much effort and time you're going to be able to put into promoting this and possibly achieving the goal. Because like sometimes when you set the goal too high, donors will come in, they'll see that they're like, oh my God, this organization is trying to raise $100,000 and they've raised $2,000 so far. Like, what is my $5 going to make a difference on? And we don't want them to feel that way. We want them to know that like, it doesn't matter how much they donate. It doesn't matter if they only share your story or if they tell a friend about it. Like, it still matters and it makes a difference. And so we don't want to overwhelm them, but we also want you to make sure that it's something that's attainable for you. And on average, in the past, this is our 6th year, in the past 5 years holding Give Local, the average amount raised is roughly about $4,500. And so we've had some who've gone really above and beyond. We've had some who have managed to get, over like $30,000 raised. We've had other ones who, had a hard time and they only managed to get like $100, but it still helps get the word out. It still helps with letting people know what your organization does, what it stands for. And we're always happy to chat more about different ways to kind of promote if your goal is a dollar value. Another thing to note is that there is, again, participation goal. So that is, you can either set that by the number of donors or you can do it by the total number of gifts. And this makes a difference. It's a very minor difference where the donors is if it's a individual person, but maybe they also included their spouse in the gift, that will then count them as 2 donors having participated. Versus a gift, it doesn't matter if a spouse was included, if this was a company donation. It's just each, essentially one transaction equals one gift. So it'll have slightly different numbers on that end. But you can set a goal either monetary, you can set it by participation, you can set both if you want to. So that way, like say you're like, my goal is 10,000, but I want, 1,000 donors. I'm not great at math, but I think that's basically 1,000 people donating $100. So that's always one marketing tactic, is just to be like, hey, this is what we need. You want to help us? And so that is just the impact part. Looking at a new feature that was added this year is called associated initiatives. And this is something that is still a little wonky. So I am not certain that people should do it quite yet, but you're welcome to if you want to kind of help work out some of the kinks with me and the platform. But this essentially is a new space in which people who have previously participated in Give Local would be able to reassign a previous story and move it over into this initiative. So if you participated last year in 2021, you would be able to, you or myself, depending on if you're having troubles with it or not, would essentially be able to just make a duplicate of your last year's story and move it into this year. And it would start you with a fresh, like ground $0 no donors, but it keeps your all your about information, your impact information, your fundraising page information, which we'll get to shortly. That way, it's like you're not entirely starting from scratch. But again, as a reminder, this is really brand new. Like they just implemented this, I do believe, at the beginning of this month. So there's still a few kinks to be worked out, but you are more than welcome to use it in this manner, in which you will essentially just be able to, you'll go into your old initiative, you go into your old story, go to the associated initiatives, and then you can add an association, and you would click the Give Local 2022 to kind of move it over. And so then the next stage is we're going to talk about a little bit about tags and categories. So these are just ways to help people find your organization, and similar to like hashtags and stuff like that, where it kind of like triggers a search feature when you like search up a certain keyword, and then everyone who has that keyword attached to their story will kind of pop up for the donor in the search bar. These categories are the focus areas that we had you all select at the beginning. You can feel free, because it is limited, and I know a lot of organizations do more than just one thing, like education and youth and arts and culture overlap all the time. Unfortunately, with the focus area kind of stuff and like the primary focus area, it only gives us the option to give, you can just choose one. But once you have set up once you've started your campaign and your story, you can go in here and you can add additional categories that your organization fits under. But we want to make sure that you are only picking ones that are relevant to your organization and in a meaningful way. So if your organization, oh, well, this one time we held a workshop that talked about healthy eating habits, but we had that like 5 years ago, and for the most part, we work on teaching youth how to do certain like arts, like maybe teaching folks how to like weld or, sculpting, something like that. We recommend that you don't add health and wellness, because that was like a one-off thing. It's not something that you do on a regular basis. So the categories are just that big overview. What does your organization do all the time? And then when you come to tags, those are the hashtags that you can kind of manually add. You can add as many as you want. But a good start is you just go to manage tag selections, and there's already going to be a whole bunch of pre-made ones that you can choose from. And you would just go ahead and you could click in and just start adding stuff that apply to your organization, that would be a keyword that you think somebody would look for when searching up your organization. And once you do that, you'll hit save. And this shows you all the different tags that your organization is associated with. So when someone uses the search feature, your name will pop up. The last little bit, not super exciting, but it's here. This is just the owner of the story, which essentially is just whoever submitted the registration form. You can change this if you so choose. And this is just kind of something that we use as like a primary contact. So it's not anything that it doesn't affect your actual like story. It doesn't affect Give Local itself. This is purely for like on our end, if we need to get a hold of you, who is the main person that we should be getting a hold of, and what is their information. So, no, okay. So that is it for the details tab. Do we have any questions before moving on? Where's my questions page? Questions. You can feel free to come off mute, or you can post stuff in the little chat box, whichever floats your boat. We'll give it a second. Ooh, drink some water. I'm going to assume that we don't have questions at the moment, but obviously feel free to write them down and we can talk about them later too, or just write them in the chat as you think of them. But we're going to go ahead and move on, and we're going to go to the fundraising page, which is the fun part. So there it is again, asking me if I wanted to save those changes, and I do not. This is just a test campaign, so it's meh. Right. Oh, I'm glad it's definitely helping you then, because yeah, it's a interesting platform to kind of hop into without prior knowledge, and you're just like fumbling around. Like, you can make it work if you've never been in the platform before, you didn't come to a walkthrough or anything, and so you're just going in like completely naive. You could fumble your way into finishing everything. Uh, and but I'm also always here that you can give me a call, you can send me an email, always happy to help as well. So looking at the fundraising page, the first thing that I always like to show people, and that is very important, is that up here, there's this little URL code right here. And this is the direct link to your story. And so this is where you're going to come in and you're going to copy this and send it out, attach it to your emails, that, put it in social media posts, everything like that. I will say, unfortunately, there's not a way to shorten the URL within this platform, but there are external third-party apps that allow you to do it. Like, I do believe like bit.ly is one of them. And it's just a simple matter of you bring in the original link, and then you can set up a smaller, more palatable kind of link to send people. Or if you have the ability to just input hyperlinks, then it doesn't matter how large the URL is, because it's just going to be whatever text you put in as the hyperlink. You can also, once we have gone live, once your story has been published and set up, you will also be able to kind of use this little tiny weird little box with an arrow pointing out. Not that it's really easy to tell that that's what that is. But if you click this part, it'll give you a more full screen of what your campaign looks like from a donor point of view once we go live. So it's like, here's your picture, here's sharing your fundraising goals, all that kind of stuff. But again, it does have to wait until after the story has been submitted for review and has been published, which is a little bit of an inconvenience, I know. But you do have, this is also a snapshot. This is just a smaller version of what I was just showing you. So you'll be able to see in real time as you are making edits how it's looking. And so going through how to make those edits is everything. To make edits on your story page, your fundraising page, everything is over here on this right-hand side. So all on the same page, definitely keeps things easy. And the first part, so the page title, that is what I was talking about earlier when we were referring to your story name, which is under details. Story name needs to be the name of your organization. But on the fundraising page, your page title can be whatever you want it to be, usually something in relation to why you are participating in Give Local. What are you here for? Are you, trying to find, are you looking to spread the word about what your organization does? Are you trying to raise funds to get a new van for your organization to transport stuff? Whatever it may be, it's just going to kind of pop up as right here, where it says test story. That is where that title is going to go. So it's going to be the first big boom thing that everyone sees when they come on to your story page. So there is also the ability to kind of play around with some of these buttons. It says pledge. We don't actually have the pledges active. That is for like year-round platform use. So don't worry about that one. it should be turned off on our Give Local 2022 initiative, but this was just a test campaign that I built, so I just forgot to take it off. Um, but you'll also be able to, have like the homepage of sbsgives.org. There's also a like donate now button, which you can change the verbiage if you want to make it say, feed a cat today or something, like whatever maybe catches people's attention besides donate. You still want to make it kind of clear though that this is where they go to add a donation or a gift to their cart for your organization. So there should be something about like donate, give, whatnot. There's also the same with share. That is just an option that pops up where it will make just this auto-generated link to your story. And then it'll have, like, hey, I was supporting this, organization, and you can come do so too by following this link. And it just helps people, they sign into like their Facebook or their Twitter, and then it'll, post it for them. So that way it's just a quick, easy additional way they can help your organization. We also have, so there's an image. You do unfortunately only have the one image that can be put in this like large mainframe space. You will be able to add other images like into like this body of text. That is also plenty of space for you to be able to put in like an infinite number of images, but also note the more images you put in, the slower the page loads. So yeah, you got to balance it out a little bit. And you'll just be able to go in, you can update, and you will just put in an image. I just have like a billion animal ones because I like animals. So we just like crop and use, and then ta-da, we have a new image. And there's also the ability that you can you can also input a single YouTube URL for a video that your organization may have posted at some point or another. And essentially when you have one in there, it just pops up this little play overlay on this image. And so that way people can click it and then they will be rerouted to get to see that YouTube video. I don't know what that YouTube video is, so I'm not going to enter that. Probably something with animals, but I'm not promising anything. So this is again, then this is where you would choose what fundraising, like your goals that we were talking about earlier that you set up. This is where you can decide how much of it is shown to the public. You can make it so folks are, when it comes to the dollar value, you can make it so it shows the total versus the goal, show just the total raised, show what the goal is, or you can just like not show it at all. And the same goes with the number of participants and gifts. There's also the progress bar, which is not set up right now because there's not a time frame set for this initiative, but it would also show how much time is left to give, how much time is left in Give Local. Now, the big piece, the coup de grace, is going to be your body content. And that is this big space right here. So right now, it's just a bunch of text. And you can use this space generally, like this is kind of some of the helpful stuff that the platform recommends, but also we recommend, because that is what we usually see as being successful, is using this space to be a text and visuals, kind of putting in why gifts can matter no matter what size they are, how the gifts will be used within your organization. Is it going to go help to, spay and neuter cats? Is it going to buy art supplies for youth? Whatever it may be, it's nice to just kind of give a quick, snapshot of like, this is how the funds will be used. There's also, if you have specific goals, so maybe you're raising funds, like we were saying earlier, for a new van to go and deliver food to elders in their homes so they don't have to go out and risk getting sick, or maybe they're physically just unable to do so. So it's good to kind of like, this is, you can specify like what you are aiming for with this story. Then there's also you want to make sure to put in usually like bold or a different color, maybe make like a little image, but something that just says like, hey, this is what we are asking of you as a viewer, as a donor, as a community member. We're asking that you share this campaign or that you donate $5 today. Maybe you're asking them, you are like, hey, we also need like additional clothing because we have a clothing bank. Stop by our place and drop off some spare clothes, like whatever your call to action may want to be, whatever you want to encourage these the various viewers and community members who come by. What is it that you are asking them to do? And so you can do all of that by going into open text editor, and you can type whatever you want within reason, because again, there is a process in which we do like an approval before we go live, where the community foundation staff is going to kind of go through and just make sure that there's nothing hateful, nothing, obviously nothing that goes against our like discrimination policy and everything like that. We don't want anyone doing that. We've never had an issue with it, knock on wood. Hopefully it stays that way, because all of you are just too lovely of people to do that. So I have faith in all of you. And so you'll be able to type in stuff. There are a few different features for playing with like the size of the text. There's the generic, bold, italicized, underline. You also will be able to highlight, and this is the formatting options that they have for sizing, and it's very limiting. And so, but it starts with, there's H1, H2, and H3, and essentially it goes from the largest size font to the smallest. Boop. And you can play around with it a little bit, choose which ones you like, maybe use different ones for different points, however you want to do that. There's ability to put in like some bullet points, some numbers, play with like the paragraphing, like where the placement starting point is at your, like the indents and all that kind of stuff. You can also put in images. Again, let's put in, I don't know, I think these are capybaras. There's some capybaras. And we can go boop. The one thing though, when it comes to imaging, which there will be in the toolkit, in the nonprofit toolkit on SPS Gives, there is a size imaging chart that kind of helps you navigate like how big the images will be. Because when you put them into this space, when you click this, it's going to put it in as a kind of like one size fits all. So if you have something that's like really big like this, it's going to be really big on the screen too. And it's going to be obsessively, like just obscenely large. And there is, unfortunately, they are working on it, but it hasn't been implemented yet to where you cannot edit the image size within the platform itself at this time. So kind of be wary of that. There's also third-party websites that can help you shrink images and make it to be more fitting. Feel free to reach out to me if you need some ideas on that. The last piece that I want to show you about the body content, and that is super helpful for folks to know, especially if you have other links that you want to direct community members to, is you can put in hyperlinks on any text within the body content. And that is simply done by highlighting the text that you want hyperlinked. And then you will find the little paperclip looking icon, click it, you will enter in, whatever the URL is, spsgives.org. And then you have to make sure to hit the enter button or I think in like when it comes to like Mac products, I think it's return. Um, you'll hit enter and then it turns it blue. And it says, and that confirms that you have a hyperlink now. And when people are on your platform, when they're on your story, if you want to direct them somewhere else to, like, hey, see what clothing items that we need, or sign up to volunteer, here is a hyperlink that you can put in and have people easily click and go elsewhere. We're just gonna save. And there we go. And again, always remember to save. Very important piece to do. It does not auto save. So after that, so that's the main thing. Everything else under here is these are all optional features and they all have their uses. Some can be really fun. Other ones are kind of like, they don't really do a whole lot within the confines of Give Local. And you can delete stuff. You can, by hitting like the little trash can, it'll ask, are you sure? I can confirm or deny it. If you accidentally delete something, that's actually okay. Because you can just go to add content zone and you can re-add it. There is all of the different options are back in here. So you have community, which community is showing where people are donating from using zip codes. There's matches. So if you have match funds that are set up prior to the start of Give Local, you can have a listing of all those shown. You can just have, so rich text sections are literally, it's just another body of content space. So you can just, if you want to type in some other information, maybe a little bit more details about a specific program that your organization offers, maybe something a little bit more detailed about that, why you need that new van for transportation, whatever it may be, you can add some of these and you can put more content in here. And embeddable media is going to be some additional like links. It doesn't work with everything, but it works with certain social medias. So it can, I'm gonna go ahead and add one and kind of show you. So you'll have, like, hey, this is a little bit about what this is. And then you're gonna add like a third party code is often in regards, it's gonna be the link to your social media page, or if you have a, like, I think it works, I can't remember. I know last year it worked, I do believe, with like YouTube and Instagram. I don't know if they've gotten it working with TikTok yet. But it's just another way to kind of add more details about your organization, usually like utilizing platforms and sources that you already have built. Looking at other content zone types, you have funds, ignore that one. We only have the one fund, so don't worry about that one. Story updates, we'll talk a little bit more about updates later, but a story update, this just kind of shows you can make like little blog posts essentially within your story that can, keep people updated, whether it's updated on something exciting that happened with your organization, or you hit a huge like fundraising milestone during this campaign. And this will just kind of help set that up. Heroes is, again, we'll kind of talk about that a little bit later, it's a space where it shows donors' names, or you can have it pre-set up to like, maybe it's thanking sponsors throughout the year, maybe you got grants from other foundations or local businesses, and you want to just highlight them, you can use the hero space and just manually type in their names. The last one is the champions leaderboard. So that's just going to show if you do get champions set up, which we'll talk about, don't worry. If you get champions set up, this will just kind of show whatever you are setting up as the goal for like fundraising or the number of donors that their link brings in, whatever it is, it'll just have like a little leaderboard showing how everyone's doing. But the leaderboard only will show folks who have managed to get, who have received a donation or have earned a donation on your behalf. So if you have champions set up, say you have 10 champions set up, but only 2 of them have gotten somebody to click their link and then make a donation, only those 2 will show up on the leaderboard. So just a quick heads up on that one. But yeah, and then whatever sections you decide to have, it'll pop up over here. You can arrange them by clicking these little lines. You just hold it and then move it, and it will switch where it goes. Obviously, there's no heroes right now, so it doesn't actually show you. So let's show you something that actually can be moved. So yeah, so I just rearranged it. So the story updates are now up here. The community information is down here. And to make edits to these, you will open up the little drop-down button and change the title to happenings. You can put a little subheader. There's just a few little basic icons that are just for extra flavor. You can choose how many stories are showing. So all these different kind of options are going to be there available for each one of these different sections. So you have the heroes, you got the community. The community one's fun too, that you can do it based on a world map, or you can do like just the US, and it's going to kind of show you just darker colors based on where donors are coming from. The world map is going to have like just like little red dots all over the place. But it is fun when you get to see, like, if you have somebody who's maybe they're over in like Japan or something at the time and they make a donation. Like, it's fun to then have this like random little red ping like over there in Japan. Well, everyone else has a bunch of red pings over here in the US and Washington. Like, you just have this one over here. And so there's just all these various options that you can do. And feel free to play around with them, delete stuff, add stuff, do whatever works best for you. And if you ever have any questions about how to set something up or maybe how to utilize it, like, okay, well, what could I actually use this for? Just always feel free to reach out to me anytime. So I think, yeah, we'll just, because this next few sections are pretty short, we're going to go through those before we pause for another question break. Going back up here to the top of all these different tabs is the first one. Yes, I want to leave. Bye. Is payments. Honestly, it's because of the way we run Give Local, all funds have to come through the community foundation. So you don't need to do anything here with payments. Like, it's just there. And there's no way for me to hide it from you, even though it's like, you're just not going to use it. So that's an easy one. You can ignore it. The other one is the thank you email. So this is just on top of, like, we have it set up to where an automatic email goes out with a receipt and tax information for the donor that specifically says it's from the community foundation, but it is very generic. Thanks for donating. Here's your info. This is where if you want to set up an automatic email, you can put one in here. You would make sure to enable it. And then put an email subject line, who it's from, replying address. You can put a little image. You can include the salutations. An important note in that we still are, it's low, unfortunately, on the developers list of things to do. But at this time, if you choose to use the salutation and you have it preset to autofill like a first name and a last name, or just the first name or just the last name, this will only go towards the donor's name, who's like basically the primary donor. So the person whose name is on the checkout, if they also included their spouse, this autofill will not include a spouse's name. And we want to, and we understand it's important because, you should be acknowledged for participating in this. For us on the community foundation end, we just opt out of having the autofill name stuff and put like a just a generic, you know, dear community member kind of thing. But you can choose to use it however you wish. And then again, you will be able to just type in your thank you kind of note, maybe a little bit talking a little bit more about how the funds are going to be used, or other ways that the donor can support your organization outside of Give Local. This is a good way to put that in there. And it's a quick thank you and verification that yes, we received your gift and we deeply appreciate it. And it has all those same editing abilities as in the body content. So you can add images, bold, hyperlinks, all that kind of stuff. Um, the last one is going to be publishing. And this is irrelevant until the end. So all stories are to be submitted for review by the Community Foundation by October 14th. So at the end of the day, some 11:59 p.m. And then after we've reviewed it and we've approved it, basically checking to make sure that, like I said earlier, there's nothing super harmful, nothing that is going against our, terms and conditions. And then it'll be approved. During that time, you won't be able to edit anything once you've submitted it for review. But after we've reviewed it, it'll get approved, and then you'll be able to come in and you can publish it. You can set your story card to display. You can enable or disable storyteller editing if you just don't want anybody else to edit it anymore. I mean, it's up to you, it's your prerogative. And the donations, you will also come in here and you will just enable. Essentially, once your story has been reviewed, just come in here and make everything turn green. So click enable. Well, maybe. Okay, well, I guess I can't enable it yet. I think that's because the initiative is not set up for taking donations. So there's nothing to donate to, and it would go nowhere. So that's why it's not letting me enable right now. But other than that, yeah, after you've been approved, then you'll come in and you can just enable everything, and then you'll be ready to go once we go live. The event schedule is something that we do on our end, so you don't have to worry about it. And approval, this is where you can come in to just see like kind of where the different steps are. So when you've submitted your registration, when you submitted your story for review, what was the outcome? Were you approved? Were you returned back to draft? Why was that? Sometimes there'll be little notes from like me or another staff member saying like, this is why we returned it to you and didn't approve your submission. Can you go back in and change X, Y, Z? There's usually not a whole lot of that, but it's, good to double check. And so I think that's pretty much it. That's all those tabs. So we'll go into the next, maybe clickety click. We went through all those. So got some questions maybe. So we're asking, if we submit it for review early, is there a chance of you reviewing it before October 14th, or is that the date you view them all regardless of submission date? The answer to that is it's all going to be submitted, or it's all going to be reviewed by October 14th. Because like I said, kind of at the beginning of this, I will be gone. And so it'll be, potentially my colleague might be able to get through and start reading some early. You can feel free to submit it early and then like message. It would be Mary Lamb who's going to be kind of taking over for the most part while I'm gone with Give Local stuff, and you can message her to see if there's time, if she can go in and maybe do a little bit extra review. If not, that is just I apologize for that slight inconvenience. I know we kind of did that like last year, and I loved getting to see, what folks are up to and getting to, help you work through some certain stuff, like if you were struggling with images and what wording you should use. And while we will be able to do that to some small extent, it won't be quite as thorough as it was last year. And so I apologize for that. And I would also encourage that you can reach out to Mary while I'm gone, or reach out to me when I return. And additionally, if you maybe just have a colleague or a friend from another organization who maybe wants to, you can go in and you all can maybe like review each other's for a little bit, kind of show them. It's like, here, this is what I have going. Like, what do you think? And then they can do the same for you. Always an option. So, long story summarized, it's going to be mostly all viewed on the 14th or later. I don't want to make any promises that I can't keep. Oh, perfect. Is there any other questions? You can either come off mute or you can put them in the chat. I'm gonna steal some water. Yeah, Janine. So so if we backtrack a little bit into the setup, this is the overall setup is when you first sign in, you're going to go into your dashboard. This is where you will load up, and then you go into the setup section, and there's just all these different, well, when it wants to load again, there's these different tabs that you will work through, kind of usually like bit by bit. Basically starting with details, going to fundraising page, ignore the payments, email optional, and then publishing is relevant once you need to submit your story, after you've submitted your story for review. And again, this recording will be sent out for folks to review later. There's also, I have a PowerPoint that kind of does a little bit of overview of everything that I was talking about, has all these different little steps and little hints. And so that will also be sent out to you all as well, so you can kind of refer back to it. In regards to standard and calculated, standard is just like a dollar value goal. So it is just, you set the goal for $10,000 and you have 100, you have a goal of 100 donors or gifts, and it's just going to straight up say you've raised 5,000 out of 10,000 for your goal, or you've raised you've had 10 donors out of 100. But if you do calculated, that is going to start playing with the like comparison between the goal you set, like the monetary goal and the donor goal. So if you are specifically being like, no, I want, donors who, I want 100 donors donating $100 each, it's going to calculate that. And if somebody donates outside of it, it just makes everything look really messy. So which is why we just encourage people to go with the standard. But you can always feel free to try it out if you so choose. I do believe you can change it. As far as I'm aware, you can change it at any point during Give Local too. So if you try it and then you don't like it, you can change it back. Don't hold me to that though. I would need to double check on this one. Of course, yeah, you're welcome. And we're not done quite yet. We do have a little bit of some additional stuff that we got to go through, and I should probably go through it faster than I went through, but the setup page is really the most important, which is why I spend the most time here. The next thing that is important to make sure that we go through is going to be creating your team. So we're jumping around a little bit over here. And this is, it's going to first, usually the first team member is going to be the owner. So the person who submitted the registration just shows their name, what their role is. This is where you can turn on or turn off the payment manager status. So their ability to access the transactions and donor information. And it shows you what their email is. So the email is also their like username login information. Their status, this shows whether or not they've actually finished setting up their accounts, like, if they've set up their login information and password. This will show whether it's suspended, pending, active, and you can also, on the flip side, there is the ability to kind of like do a little bit of editing by clicking a team member's name. You can upload a little fun image of them and change the name, change the login email, type in a fake phone number, put in a real phone number. I recommend putting in a real one if you're going to put one. But you can suspend them, reset them, address. Most of this stuff, you can. The most important thing really is just making sure they have their username and everything set up. And if this person wasn't suspended, and if the campaign were, if this was a live initiative, there would also be the option to you could change the password right then and there, if you are that person. So if you click into a team member and this is your name, it will give you the option to change your password. If you're the account owner, or like myself as admin, there's an option that I can reset your password. So it'll send you like an email that says like, hey, your password's been reset. Click this to, update your password. You can go ahead and do that. And again, don't hold me 100% to it. I forgot to double check it, but I'm like 90% certain that in order to do that, you have to be the owner of the story. But take that with a grain of salt. If you can't do it, if you can't reset the password yourself, just let me know. I can do that. I have the magic abilities to do so. And so, yeah, you can have as many or as few team members as you wish. You can add them just by clicking invite new team member. You put in an email and it'll send them an invitation automatically pre-filled in for your specific story for this specific initiative. And a note, similar to when you first registered your organization for Give Local, the automated email that comes out, that sends out like a link saying, thank you for registering, click here to review your submission. Those links always expire within 48 hours of being sent. So if you're going to add a new team member, make sure they know that this invitation is coming. So that way they can click it, they can click the link and get their stuff signed up. Otherwise, you can always just resend it. It's not the end of the world. It's not going to create multiple accounts. If you use the same email, it's not going to make it won't make multiple team member names for the same email. It'll only just do one. So that is definitely a bonus. The next big thing that I want to make sure we go over is going to be transactions. And there is quite a bit that you can do, and it keeps expanding every year, which is nice, but also sometimes a little overwhelming. So it just kind of starts off again. There's like little tabs that can break things down into smaller sections if you so choose. And if you're utilizing any of those optional features. But the big thing is just your all transactions. This is just a broad overview of all donations and gifts that you have received during this initiative. And it just gives you like a snapshot summary that is updating in real time. So you could be in this and then it says you've raised $150 and then you refresh the page. And now suddenly it says that you've raised like $3,000. Somebody was very generous and gave a big gift. So, and it'll kind of give you like a quick breakdown where they raised online, offline, what's the averages, all that kind of stuff. Ignore the pledges again and the reoccurring gifts. Those two are a part of if an initiative was lasting year round. This is not a year round donation page. So those will just be blank all the time. But you can also kind of filter stuff by dates and, set certain dates and certain times. So it'll only show you the listing of donations that came in during that time frame. There is a lot of information that is available to you in regards to the donation overviews. And it's like, I think it's almost every portion of the checkout page will be here for your viewing pleasure. And so you'll be able to just kind of scroll over and like view the different pieces. So like the status, has the transaction gone through? Was it denied for whatever reason? Was it canceled for whatever reason? And you'll be able to, once there is one in here, you'll be able to kind of click it for a little bit more details on why it may be failed. Doesn't always give that information. It depends on the method of donation. So like sometimes if it comes like Visa versus MasterCard kind of stuff, like depends on whether or not the third party wants to give us that information as well. So you might get some, like better insight versus other donations won't give you like any insight at all. It'll just be like, nope, it failed. That's it. That's all you know. But gives you the date, source, type, how much they donated, the name of the donor, the spouse's name, all that kind of stuff. So there's lots of information. And for me, once you get like more than like a couple of donations in here, it just blows my mind and how to read it in this kind of tiny space. So you can go ahead and at any point during Give Local, before, during, after, whatever floats your boat, you can hit this export button and it will automatically download a Excel spreadsheet of all of your donations during this story. So you can get one every week. You could, export a new sheet every day if you want to. You could just wait until the end of the campaign and get one. And for me, it just makes it more palatable to be able to read everything and I can rearrange things as I want. Versus in here, it's just, this is the way it's laid out and that's it. You can also, again, there's a little bit more filters that are down here. So maybe you only want to view offline donations. This would just, in this auto space, would only show offline donations. Unfortunately, when you export with a filter on, it does not adhere to the filters. It will still just export a spreadsheet with all of your donor information. So good thing to note. But yeah, so then there's more. You can look for statuses that maybe you were looking for ones that failed and you're like, hey, I want to reach out to this person and be like, hey, your donation failed. Is there something I can do to help you? Is there a way that I can better support you through this? Do you need maybe some technical support? If you want to. We try to, on our end as community foundation staff, we try to catch some of them and either let you know that there's been a failed transaction, or we let you know that we messaged somebody with a failed transaction. If you don't hear from us saying one of those two things, then it means that we have not reached out in any way, shape, or form to this person. And so you are more than welcome to do so. And so then again, you go into these tabs and it's going to break it down by those certain sections. If you have the optional reward set up, matches, challenges, champions, all that kind of stuff. Another new feature that they have this year that I almost forgot about, and I was about to leave this page, and then I just remembered it. There's something called shareable URLs, which is new to both me and to the platform itself. So unsure on how well it works. And so again, if you use it, take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, though we do have some time for kinks to be worked out between now and the start of Give Local. But essentially, shareable URLs are if you have say you have a reoccurring donor who they have been supporting you during Give Local with $100 every year for the last 5 years. You can kind of speed up their checkout process by building them a specialized URL, which it's not letting me do that right now, which is rude. Um, it did earlier. And so, but there will be, I'll make sure to put in some clips of what that looks like in the PowerPoint later that gets sent out. But essentially, you'll be able to go in there. You will be able to fill out that donor information for them, putting in that $100 gift that they always do, the name, like your organization, all that kind of stuff. And once you fill that out for them, all you have to do is you'll put in their contact information that you previously had on file, and then you will send an email to that person with that link and say, hey, thank you so much for, always supporting us during Give Local. We wanted to help you out by saving you a few steps. And then they'll click the link. It will have all that information auto-filled into their cart. And the only thing they have to do is then put in their payment information and they're done. And so you can do it that way. You can also do it maybe as an ask for folks that maybe with your broad email to all of your past donors and volunteers and stuff like that, you can build this URL link that is built in and says, hey, here's a generic, link that just automatically fills it for $25 or whatever it may be. Click this link to automatically add us into your cart so you don't have to try and search through all of the available organizations. But it is an option and it is a little bit new. So there's some things that there's still a learning curve on this one. But because we are running a little low on time, I'm gonna skip the next pause and we're just gonna go straight into some of these optional features. And one of the first optional features that the platform offers is champions. And champions are simply somebody who wants to help you promote your organization and promote your story. So can be a volunteer, it can be a board member, it can be your spouse, it could be if you have maybe a teenager at home who's good with social media, they could be a champion and help you out. Because realistically, this is a very virtual feature as champions, in which you're sharing URL kind of information. So teenager is actually a pretty good option. Maybe college student, I don't know. And you can go in here, you invite a champion, you send them an email. You can, if you want to, you can add a suggested fundraising goal, participation goal, put in a little personalized message of why you would love for them to help champion and share your story. And then you send it, and then they have the option to do that, to either participate or not. And again, similar to under the teams, there'll be a status, whether it's pending, active, suspended, whatever it may be. This also gives a quick snapshot of if anyone has had gone through the champions link and then donated to your organization. It will show up a breakdown of that here. It'll show up the gifts. If their story link has been shared by somebody else other than the champion themselves, how much funds they've raised, all that kind of stuff. It'll also have the ability to, you'll have the ability to kind of view and edit their profile a little bit. So putting in a name, picture. The donor, when the champion first gets their invitation and they accept, they will have the ability to edit all of this So they'll have the ability to, if they want to put a picture, if they want to, what their name is, putting in their uh like a display name essentially. Oh, well, that was weird. I don't know why it closed out on me. Didn't like me apparently. But yeah, there's like a display name and their email address, setting up a password, all that kind of stuff will get to go in there. They'll have that when they first set up. After that, they have a little less access to changing that, but they'll have some access. And when it comes to champions, when you do have somebody set up to be a champion, they can always access their personal profile by going to sbsgives.org. And while nonprofits have this nonprofit login up here in the header, in this title, like just a page title essentially, there is a one that says login, and this login is specifically for champions only. So champions will be able to log into their profile and send out email invites from their profile by clicking here, access their specific URL link to share out, all that kind of stuff. And that is, that's in a nutshell, that is champions. They're just a nice way to kind of help. It gives people an alternative way to also help your organization if they don't, or if they don't want to, or if they don't have funds, and instead they want to, just help spread the word. This is a great way to do that. The next section is going to be updates. I don't know if I have any fake updates in here. I guess I do have one. It's not informative at all, but let's go to one that actually has like some more useful updates. So yeah, so here we go. So this one, so updates is, like I said earlier, it's kind of like a space that you can use similar to like a blog post, where you can really just post whatever's on your mind. You can post something that maybe you just want viewers to know, like about your organization, what's going on with your organization, what's new, how is the campaign going, how's the initiative going for you, any of that kind of stuff, you can put it in here. If you have volunteer opportunities, this is a great place to post that information. You can also set it up that when you do post something, you can have an email template that goes out that you choose. You can send it to people that just like lets people know and directs them to your updates, so that way they can view whatever the information is that you're trying to share. And you basically just get to come in here and you can add a new post, and it works similar to the body content changes. You put images, text, all that kind of stuff in here. You have like a header image, you put a little title to it, and then you save them as draft. You can publish them, and then archived simply means that it's just no longer visible to the public, but you can unarchive anything. So like in this case, we have this bonus, this Giving Wednesday one is archived. We can go in to edit, and we can go ahead and publish it, and it'll go, I don't want it to go to draft. How rid of it. All right, well, apparently I want to go to draft first. It's supposed to just go to publish first, but it did not want to do that right away. And so, but if it goes to draft, then you just simply come back in and you say published, and then it'll change it into published, and then it will now be showing on your story page and accessible to anyone who comes and visits. Oh, sorry. But yeah, those are always, and again, always happy to talk to folks about ways to utilize this. And the last big piece, and this has multiple bonus features. We do have rewards turned off because it gets messy as a kind of like third-party situation of all the donations have to come through the community foundation and then get passed on to the participating nonprofits. If rewards are being handed out, so if anything has like a monetary value, uh, like if people donate $50, you get a, t-shirt, or you get a postcard, or what have you. It's the it's a messy thing with the IRS, and we're still working on how do we do this in a way that doesn't require a whole bunch of work on your part and a whole bunch of work on our part to make it happen. Um, one of these years. um, I feel like there's got to be a way to make it work. Uh, but until then, we unfortunately do have them turned off. Uh, on the flip side, if you want to talk to maybe some local businesses, who would love to kind of support your organization, either with a larger donation, say like $500 or something like that, you can add them in as like a sponsor. And you'd be able to, what a derpy picture. I totally forgot I had that in here. Um, sorry, got distracted. But yeah, you just be able to go in here, add a new sponsor. You put their logo in here, you put their name, a link to their website if they have one, and then you save it. And then you can have a spot on your fundraising page or your story page, essentially, that can list all of your donors or all of your sponsors that you have uploaded here. And alongside sponsors, there's also oftentimes matches. And matches are simply if somebody donates during and fits within these parameters of a match, then additional funds basically get earned for it. So it's a way to kind of inspire people to give because it's boosted more. So it's like, oh, you gave $5. Well, we have a dollar for dollar match. So basically your $5 has turned into $10. And this is often done through sponsors who want to sponsor a match. And it is important to note, if you do have a match fund, all match funds have to be made out by check, or they can come in and do a credit, they can call us over the phone and do a credit card, go online, do a credit card setup, and they can, but all the funds have to come through the community foundation. And then we will set up the matches on our end. So after we receive the amounts, after we receive whatever the match amount may be from your sponsor, then we will get a hold of you and I'll talk to you about how do you want this to work? Do you want it to be like a dollar per dollar? Do you want it to be 2 for 1? Do you want it to be only for folks who donate less than $20? Do you want to be, does the match only apply on Thursdays? However you want to do it, we'll work through and we'll get it all set up. But we will set it up on our end because it does get a little messy, and if we do it wrong, which I've done it wrong, I've also had other folks who have done it incorrectly, and it just messes with your donations a whole bunch and it gets really confusing. So we just encourage folks to reach out to us. We will get everything set up, make sure that it's working correctly, so we don't have this weird debacle happening during the middle of Give Local. But another reminder, and it's also, again, a reminder that is posted in the PowerPoint that I'll be passing out, all of any match funds or sponsor donations. Well, I guess not sponsor donations, sorry. Any sponsor match funds. Any match funds need to be received by the community foundation no later than November 4th. So that is the Friday before Give Local starts. Because Give Local starts on, wait, that's not the Friday before. Is it? No. I definitely mistyped. There's no way that is, it's not the 4th. Because Give Local starts, I can't do math, struggling with numbers lately. Oh my goodness. Okay, no, somehow it is. Okay, oh yeah, my brain said that we started on the 8th. We started on the 7th. That's why. Okay. We're gonna backtrack for a second. Pretend ignore everything that just happened in the last 30 seconds. So all match funds need to be received by the community foundation by the end of the day on November 4th, which indeed is the Friday before Give Local goes live. Give Local goes live on November 7th and ends on November 18th. And so we need to have those before Give Local actually starts. So that way it can apply and we're not scrambling to get it to apply halfway through the live event. The last thing is we do have challenges disabled because again, and it gets messy, similar to rewards. But then the last one is just going to be heroes. And so heroes are kind of whatever you want it to be. You can rename it so it's not even heroes. But this can be if somebody donates $25, they automatically get listed under the heroes section that you have set up. It auto populates. Or you can just manually do it. Like that's what we had most people do last year is they mostly just added like other big donors, whether it was an organization or an individual, maybe that donated earlier in the year, didn't even donate to Give Local. They don't have to, if you just do manual. So maybe you got it from other community foundations. You got a grant and you want to put all your grant, like funders in this space. Go for it. You're more than welcome to do that. It's like this is more about you than it is about us. So we're not going to get jealous. We just love to see what you're doing, and we love to see you get to continue doing what you do. And that is everything for the moment. Any questions as we stare at this cute little weasel? Oop. Always feel free to come off mute, post something in the chat. Again, if you think of something after this session, go ahead and feel free to contact me anytime. My contact information is on the screen. You can call me by phone. You can send me an email. And yeah, you can also get a hold of pretty much anyone here at the Community Foundation. And at the very least, they can direct you to me if they don't know the answer to the question. So we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to boop on the stop sharing. And we are right there at the end of time. And so I just want to, make sure that folks don't have any last minute questions or if there's something you want me to go back through really quick, I will still be on here I'm still available for another few minutes. So definitely happy to stay on and chat about anything. But other than that, thank you so much. And I will see you all on the interwebs.